Thanks for joining us again today, folks. Our numbers keep going up, and it's because of you tuning in and telling your friends and getting the message out about Stockwell Day, day-to-day news. We thank you for that. And one thing you can know for sure, there's always news, and there's more of it today. An exciting development on the environmental front coming out from Canada with the announcement that the federal government, and it surprised some people, the Liberal government, has approved liquid natural gas plant operation to be built. And this is on the coast of British Columbia, north of a city called Prince Rupert, about 50 miles, about 90 kilometers north of there. Very exciting because when it comes on to full production, and it will take a while, it will be producing about 12 million metric tons per year of liquid natural gas. Now, I know that's a number that is difficult to quantify, so we've done the research on it and did some checking. That amount annually produced of LNG, for instance, could power the entire city of Beijing. Beijing, which hugely depends on coal and belches coal into the atmosphere daily. By the way, China is increasing its coal plant development because it can't get enough liquid natural gas from countries like Canada or even the US. And so the message, politicians need to take up a little courage. Don't be worried about Greta, and don't be worried about the left-wing media saying that the world is coming to an end because of climate. It is not. And with the development of clean and refined products like what comes from Canada, emissions actually can be lowered worldwide and globally when you get countries like China reducing their coal use because they get liquid natural gas made available. A same comparative, that 12 million metric tons of LNG per year could take 5 cities in Africa, five major countries in Africa, which, like Gambia, presently burn 80% wood. There's Gambia. That nation, it's just under 5 million people getting energy, 80% wood. Liquid natural gas would drastically reduce that, make for a cleaner environment, healthier for everybody. Good news, and congratulations to Nisga'a First Nations. Sorry it took the federal government 4 long years to approve that, but all the best. The other thing that should be noted about that particular plant being built, once built, in the building phase, they estimate 800 to 1,000 ongoing jobs, and priority on jobs. First priority goes to First Nation youth. The exciting part of the story, that plant, which will have at least a 30-year plant life, for 30 years will be supplying 250 to 300 jobs. That's per year. The priority will go to First Nations young people and then others in line after that. This is fantastic news. Kind of depressing in the Canadian news to see a lot of the focus on the world coming to an end because of climate change when in fact it's not. So this is great news. Congratulations to the elders and to the members of Nisga'a First Nations. And on the note of energy, I was just speaking to some high school students, and I was talking about the amazing benefits that we have coming our way with AI and the development of AI. And they said, no, our teachers are telling us that every time we even do one search on AI, that's the equivalent of dumping on the ground a full bottle of water. So teachers are frightening kids by giving these horror stories, not scientific, about how the environment is being destroyed and about how using AI for all the benefits that will bring is actually destroying the planet. You know, it's time that the school boards and citizens need to go to their school boards and talk about this. Also allow both sides of a debate on key items like this, whether it's social issues or environmental issues, by only allowing the extremist left views in our public schools and universities. Kids and young people, they come out alarmed, they come out stunted, they come out not knowing how to think properly, they come out not knowing how to debate. It's terrible, and there should be some accounting here on what's being done in our public schools and universities. Well, sort of along that point, there was a very interesting news conference today that was held in Washington, D.C., primarily with faith leaders, but combining that with kids who go to school. And it was alarming to hear a couple of kids, actually, this is on national television, at the microphone, talking about the immense pressure that they're feeling in public schools from teachers who are pressuring them to be thinking trans, to be thinking that they might actually be born in the wrong body, and doing this without parental notification. As a matter of fact, telling them, don't tell your parents about this. What is wrong with adults who would talk to kids about this kind of stuff and not even advise the parents? Now, it consistently comes from the left, and also consistently from the left is this push to lower the age of consent with kids. What is with that? I can't explain it. Maybe somebody can, but it should be smartened up, don't you think? That brings us to the news today as the officials, the criminal justice officials in the state of Utah officially declared their charges against the killer of Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to mention the killer's name. I just don't like giving those monsters any more credit than they're due, even though his name is out there. So yes, thoroughly confirming the transgender relationship that he was in, and that confirming he was upset that somebody like Charlie Kirk would speak with concern about transgender issues, and so he determined to kill Charlie Kirk, which he did. The charges that came out, as we pretty well guessed were coming, aggravated murder charge. Now that's interesting because with that comes the possibility of the death penalty. But more than that, something people aren't aware of, it also, in the state of Utah, not only has a death penalty, they also have, at times, depending on the level of charge and conviction, they also have firing squad for the means of execution rather than a needle or some other means. So I can tell you over the next while, people are going to be watching this very closely. In terms of markets, also fascinating because daily I do media comparisons from around the world, US, Canada, UK, about media outlets, and it is very clear that media outlets, the mainstream media, have very clear biases, and that goes in how they talk about and how they frame certain events. So here we understand there's the possibility of interest rates, of the Fed lowering the interest rates, which would be good for the economy overall. Anytime interest rates go down, you see there's a day or two of wobble on the markets while people kind of assess how much the reduction was, and then you see investments into everything from housing to technology to agriculture, and you see the economy start to bounce upwards again. But the media, many in the mainstream media, predicting a weaker dollar. They call it a weaker dollar. Well, the dollar, because you have so much investment going on and so much injection of dollars going back into the marketplace, then like any product, the more there is of it, the lower the price gets. That's why there is a somewhat lower dollar, but to call it lower in what will be a much stronger economy is a bit misleading. But there you go. We do think, and I'll predict here that the rates are going to go down, and I predict that you're going to see some uptick in the economy. That'll be in the U.S., which of course will drive it elsewhere, in spite of what I still think is misguided policy relative to tariffs, but we'll see in the long run how that particular one works out. On the culture side, it was been interesting to look around the world and what's going on culturally in different countries. In the country of Spain, and I was just there not that long ago, there's been a real, the last almost 2 years, a real resurgence, a real growth and uptick in their music industry. And that would be consumption of music services, whether it's live streaming, whether it's music videos. A lot of it propelled, of course, by the Gen Z or Gen Z, what country, depending what country you're in. But a really significant uptick in purchasing and participation relative to their music industry. So we did a little research on that, and we found Spain has been very aggressive, among other things, in tax credits and tax reductions to producers, to creators, to manufacturers of music and the equipment that goes with it. What a novel idea. A government lowering taxes for a change, and it has brought about a real robust boost in the economy, in the music economy. And that's different from countries like Canada, where Canada, the government there subsidizes certain media outlets like the CBC. And you have the government picking the winners and losers and subsidizing rather than offering the incentive and lower taxes to anybody who's in the game to see how they can do. It makes for a much more vibrant market. Anytime you have more competition, you have a better product. So hoping the Canadian government will look at how Spain tips the balance when it comes to encouraging an industry, tips the balance in favor of tax reduction, tax credits that are available to anybody, not just the music and news outlets that constantly praise the government. In the closing story on the culture side, something happened in the UK this year that's never happened before, apparently. We're just reporting on it now. And that is people are always interested in the selection of names of newborns. And so in the classification of newborn baby boys, we see for the first time in history, the name that's most chosen is not one actually of British, UK, or European heritage. In fact, it's an Islamic name, and number one choice of name for boys in England this year, surpassing British and European names, is Mohammed. There you go. Think about that. And think about, they say naming is destiny, so you can give that all the thought you like, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye now.